A couple of years ago, I shared with you some research being done at a university about using just a kitchen product, baking soda, mixed with a horticultural oil to control some diseases on roses. Now the diseases are specifically black spot, which is a fungus disease that's more prevalent during our high moisture times. And again, it's just like it's described, black spots on the foliage of the leaves, and it will cause them to eventually turn yellow and defoliate. And if it's not controlled, the roses will obviously decline in growth and they won't put on as many blooms. And over a long period of time, you can actually lose the roses from the disease black spot. Now, the other one that it's thought to control is powdery mildew, which is also a fungus, but it's a whitish mildew characteristic on the outside of the leaves too, and also can shorten the life of your rose plants. So again, this year, the market and the industry and magazines and trade journals seem to be picking up on this research again. So you're liable to read about it or see about it, and let me tell you what the recipe is. It's 1 tablespoon of the baking soda mixed with 2.5 tablespoons of the horticultural oil. Now in the research, they actually use sun spray because it's formulated a little bit differently. It's like a dormant oil in a way, but it's a little bit finer in its particle size, and that's specifically what they recommend. But keep in mind that there's all kinds of horticultural oils out there. You just need to make sure that they're labeled for rose use. Now, what I would encourage you to do is put the baking soda in a smaller container like this and just add some water to it and try to get it dissolved down pretty good. And that doesn't take too long. It really mixes up pretty easily. And once you have it mixed up, then pour the remainder of it into your gallon of water. And then once that's put in, then you can mix up again 2.5 tablespoons of your horticultural oil, and that we would just pour right into the container. Now you'll want to keep it agitated again as you use it, and again, it's better to mix a smaller amount because it probably doesn't store that well again. So don't mix up a whole bunch of it and store it, just use what you need to use. Now, the timing of this is very important. They spray in their research test every other week, and they do it as a preventative. So what that would mean is if you wait too late in the season, especially after all the rain we've had, and you see the disease on there, you're not going to control what's already on the leaves. Those will probably drop off. You're going to prevent it from the other leaves getting it. So that's why really in the season, especially with heavy rains in the spring, the minute the leaves come out, you need to do it as a preventative basis. So that's something that you'll probably see more about. Now keep in mind too, obviously the baking soda is not labeled for use like that on roses, so I'd encourage, if you're going to try this, to only do it on your own property. It can't be done for hire or on other people's property, although the researchers are actually trying to get it labeled for use on that, so it'd probably be in a different formulation though. Now again, if you do a lot of reading, you're also liable to find out about some research using an anti-transpirant. And anti-transpirants are products, and you'll see them like Wilt-Proof, Vapor Guard, or another brand called Folicoat. And the actual research was done using the anti-transpirant Folicoat, which we didn't have much luck in finding that one in our particular area. But anti-transpirants are sprayed on plant material to keep them from transpiring or leaking water basically through the foliage. And hopefully that's to keep them from being stressed during the summertime. Now most of the research from our area and other universities, especially in the climates like Oklahoma, don't show a lot of positive reinforcement on them as far as 100% effectiveness. But a researcher again in, I believe it was Louisiana, found that this does help a little bit in controlling black spot too, and he would mix a 3/4 cup to a gallon of water, and he would do that at 2-week intervals because the anti-transpirant will actually stay on the foliage a lot longer. Now I would definitely caution you in using that one because during the hot part of the summer, when you are liable to get transpiration and the plants wilt on you a little bit, you're also liable to get some burning, especially if you spray during the hot summer days. So be careful if you're going to try that one. And again, you may not find that particular example on the label, so you have to use caution. And you may only want to try certain parts of the plant or only one plant in case it would burn it. Now also, there's a big push this year on the market about another fungicide that's actually used on roses called Security brand Fungiguard. Now the reason I'm giving you the brand name or trade name on this is because the American Rose Society has now officially endorsed FungiGuard by Security as their recommendation for controlling black spot again and powdery mildew on roses. Now the way they came about that is in 1989 they had a test with various rosarians and they found that this product worked the best for them, again as a preventative measure. But what I'm concerned about is when they give a recommendation like that, because the American Rose Society is a very official organization that's been existent for many years, that people will start using more and more of this and spray only this on a regular basis. And you know, on the show we encourage people to really rotate their sprays with various chemicals because you can build up a tolerance or a resistance by that disease, and that very well could happen with this kind of endorsement. So I would encourage you to rotate it out with other fungicides, and there's plenty of them on the market, and let me give you some of those that are also labeled for roses. Banner, Captan, Dithane, 4, Funginex by Ortho, Maneb, Thompson, and Phyton, and those are just a few that you'll find on the market. Again, various brand and trade names because they're sold by different companies, all labeled for control, again, in a preventative measure. So what I would encourage you to do is rotate some of those with FungiGuard or even with a baking soda oil mix, and just try to be careful that you don't let the disease build up a resistance to it, because obviously then the chemical would become ineffective. Now, the other thing is, to start with, especially in Oklahoma, you know, those two diseases are big problems, but you may want to search, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find roses that have a tolerance to the disease or a resistance to the disease. And also, the American Rose Society gives some recommendations on particular varieties of roses that they found are a little bit more tolerant to it. If you're interested in Floribunda roses, the cultivars or varieties Impatient, Sunsprite seem to be a little bit more tolerant. Grandifloras, Queen Elizabeth, with the hybrid teas, Duet, Olympiad, and Smooth Lady. If you're interested in miniature roses, Baby Betsy McCall, Gourmet Popcorn, Little Artist, and Rainbow's End. And then in a shrub rose, All That Jazz and Carefree Wonder, which are some new releases, seem to be a little bit more tolerant of black spot. Now, just because they're recommending these to be more tolerant, if the roses are under stress conditions and in areas with higher humidity, they're still liable to get the disease, but maybe just not as bad as some others. So just like everything else, it's all a maintenance program. Try to get cultivars that are more tolerant. Mix your sprays on a preventive basis, but most importantly, make sure you have good soil and that you mulch and that your fertilizer and your nutrient label based on a soil test are all up to par, because if the plant is real healthy, you'll find that it will actually be more naturally tolerant of those problems. And also, if you water with irrigation, try to keep the moisture off the leaves. That will keep them drier and less likely to have chances with a disease. So do some homework again when you're selecting your materials and your plants, and just get into a great cultural practice, because you'll be surprised what kind of impact you can have, and you can enjoy some beautiful roses like we have here in our formal garden.